All right, folks, welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them, share them far and wide, smash the like button. It is very, very helpful. If you are watching on YouTube, if you could mosey on over to Rumble and subscribe there and like the video there, and vice versa, It helps, of course, with the algorithms, and it helps, of course, with sponsorship advertising, right? But, of course, the best place to follow and the best place to follow our work is right there. peoplespundit.locals.com, peoplespundit.locals.com. All right. I was going to open up with these videos. There's something I got to address. It's this like deep fake thing back and forth. When we see something that's just totally Orwellian or dystopian in nature, we're going to have to point it out. And of course, our buddy Dave over at Viva Fry is at the heart of this. So we have to address this. And then overall, I want to get back after that. I want to get back to the talk really about the election. We'll hit the Virginia primaries. And then also this concept of like, I'm sitting thinking about this the last couple of days, and the economy, it's the economy stupid. Is that too simplistic these days? But it did dawn on me that I don't think there's something that I don't think is in dispute, which is that the Biden campaign and the economy, while like almost inseparable, they're inseparable, they're connected. They share things in common. They share the same challenges and the same like forecasts of whether or not those challenges can be overcome. And I want to explore that a little bit. All right. But first, let's go over Virginia quickly. I don't want to talk about it too much. And then I want to get into this dystopian crap that is just unbelievable to me. I never thought we partner with the Decision Desk for election results, their API, and for graphics. I love AP Vote Count. I love AP Vote Cast. I want to get AP Vote Cast for you guys when we go into the general election. And if, for those who don't know what I'm talking about, maybe there's somebody new, maybe who doesn't know, but I doubt it. But let me just recap it to be safe. The Edison Research exit polls have had a lot of problems. AP Votecast is certainly something different. What it essentially is the methodology that Nate the Slimer, who got fired from 538, called fake in 2016 when we developed it, long before anybody else was ever doing anything like that. And it can be weird, the demographics that they don't always like line up on par with the validated voter surveys of, the census, Pew, the Harvard Co-op that we all see after elections are over. And we're all really, kind of analyzing the data. Some of the demographic groupings are different. For instance, age. I like to stick to the census and the exit polls to make everything very much conform, so it's not confusing to you guys, and not just you guys, but to everyone, to us. So if we're looking at the 18 to 24, 25 to 29, 30 to 39, we can better understand these groups when we're consistent. If we constantly change, well, what about 18 to 44? What about 18 to 35? What about it? Doesn't really narrow it down, especially when you're dealing with sample sizes as large as ours in our polling. We try to get as granular as possible and then warn about sampling errors when for subgroups when they are statistically insignificant, or at the very least large enough that you have to be told, that we got to take this with a grain of salt. But that being said, consistency matters, and I think it's important. Otherwise, people can obfuscate data and facts, right? So with that in mind, I still love the AP because of the Votecast. They did a better job this year. They were a little bit weird in prior years, but in the primary, specifically the Republican primary, because that's what we really were all paying attention to, they did a much better job than Edison Research. And Edison Research grossly understated Trump's vote in those entrance polls for the caucus, in the exit polls for primaries. For instance, when the second wave of Edison Research came out in New Hampshire, it looked like a low single-digit win for Donald Trump. It, of course, was not. It was low double-digit, nevertheless, a significant difference. They revised for the third time, and they still had some really stupid results that don't jive with reality. So, for example, in the Iowa caucuses, the entrance polls had Ron DeSantis winning the youth vote. He did not win the youth vote. Donald Trump won every single age group of caucus goers. They were wrong. They were and they were very wrong. And we know this because we can look at the caucus locations and we know who what age groups dominate each caucus location. So it's not that difficult. And especially like on the surface, when you just look at the college precincts, the college areas, the caucus locations, the younger group of voters, it just wasn't the case. So they were just simply wrong. So I'm nervous about Edison going into 2024. I don't really want to show you that. So we turn to the AP, who we had a great conversation with, and their AP vote count has been outpacing Decision Desk. There's no doubt. I mean, we're being honest about that. Usually Decision Desk outpaces the AP, or has in the past, until they have started to grow. I think maybe a little bit too quickly, but whatever. We're going to ride with them. We're going to die with them because number one, they've always been very good to us. They are not smear merchants like the Nate Silvers of the world, okay? And so many others that are in this business. They know me. They've known who I am, my work, for many years. It was never a question about whether or not we're going to put big data poll in our average when we started our averages. And by the way, Slimer, the Decision Desk average has been even more so than RCP, has been more accurate because of, number one, how they do that average, and number two, the fact that they included me in it. It's that simple. And now even 538, who fired you, includes us. So where am I going at with this? Apparently, it's a very, very different side of the AP from that end of the business to the so-called news end of the business, which is where we got to get into with the deep fakes. This is now a whole other level of dystopian. But real quick before we do that, and I'll come back if we have time, to Virginia, I just want to show you the results of the race that, of course, is really knocking people out of the park here today. So John McGuire the third, thought of very much as the more Trumpy candidate in the 5th district of Virginia, which is not a very it's not heavily Republican anymore. Bob Good only won by a few points. He won his reelection by a lot. Right? So now we're moving into another cycle with a new name on the ballot that is not Bob Good. What happened here? Because as you guys probably remember and heard, I know Bob. He's a nice guy. I like him personally. I think his wife is a wonderful woman. Laura thought his wife was a wonderful woman. All that being said, Bob Good endorsed Ron DeSantis. And Bob Good, he did show up to Trump's trial. But listen, before the lawfare came down, it was very clear to many of us, and maybe Bob, he wasn't one of them, and I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on this, but it was very clear to everyone who understood what time it was. The very presence of Ron DeSantis in the race emboldened the lawfare against Donald Trump. And now the man is facing the rest of his natural life behind bars in state and federal prison over total bull. Yes, first of all, yes, he rescinded his endorsement of Ron DeSantis and backed Donald Trump when Donald Trump had an enormous lead in the polls. 50 points nationally, 30 points. And yes, it was before any votes were counted. That's true. But the handwriting was on the wall. And I submit, and I think Trump is right about this. I think the president is right. I submit that had Ron DeSantis not been played like a patsy, which he was, then that never would have, I don't think that we would see at least the degree of lawfare that we are seeing right now. He gave them the okay to do this to him. Shall we go back to the press conference after he was charged in the District of Manhattan with this stupid case that he got convicted of with Stormy Daniels? So if you expected Donald Trump to just forget about that crap, I don't know who the hell would you? Would you? Secondly, the House Freedom Caucus, while they, of course, will vigorously support Donald Trump in the general election, was a thorn in the side for Donald Trump the entire Trump presidency. I have often been heard blaming John McCain for the failure to pass the Obama repeal bill. And I actually even think that the House Freedom Caucus was keeping Donald Trump and Paul Ryan in line when it came to the kind of plan that was being submitted. What Paul Ryan came up with after he lied to the country and said that we have a consensus plan. He did not. What he came up with was not what Republicans were promising. It just wasn't. And there's been this constant back and forth. Trump, let's get this done. It's the failure to do it is going to hurt us more than anything. They did not listen because before McCain came with his crusty ass finger and, his crusty ass thumb and gave a thumbs down and killed the bill, there was an opportunity to get it done, and the House Freedom Caucus tanked it. Trump's instincts were right, and there was no way for them to argue against the Democratic argument that they were trying to strip pre-existing conditions, protections for pre-existing conditions, because the bill was not passed. And you can't argue something that's like a hypothetical. Did great damage. And throughout the presidency, whether it was tariffs, you name it, even during the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it was one thing after the other. So that kind of is just icing on the cake. Hung Cao, of course, is nominated for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate. He will go against Tim Kaine. This is well within recount territory in the state of Virginia. If it is within a point, you can call for a recount. If it is within a half a point, the state will pay for it. So it does look like Bob Good will get his recount, and we will see what happens, because we are talking about, folks, 307 votes. And by the way, just to look at where this came down, Appomattox, Bob Good barely won Appomattox. That's old school Republican territory. Because, of course, you have the DeSantis people flipping their shit this morning. And it's like they just expected there wouldn't be any consequences. And I don't know where the hell you got that idea from. All right. Pennsylvania, conservative, more Trumpy for sure. Bob Good used to rely on this vote. He lost it by 12 points. Amherst is a place Bob Good did well. Now, why does that matter? I mean, that, was ironically the more squishy Republican area of the district. So interesting results, but there you have it, and that's what it is. All right. We talked on Monday about the black vote and the support for Donald Trump among black and, of course, non-whites in general, but especially among the voters in the black community. And I wanted to bring this up real quick because I want to. Well, let's save that segment, because I have, if possible, and I have the time, I have an article that I want to read along with this video. And I think that we need to wait, because I don't want to squish that into 14 minutes. We have something coming up at 12:30. I do not want to squish this into 14 minutes. So we're going to leave that as it is. Let's go to the dystopian news of the day. If you thought with Elon Musk buying Twitter, right, with people like myself, even my wife who deals with media inquiries and whatnot, being returned to X, if you thought this was going to be a less dystopian election, where the media was going to tell you the truth or not push as hard with these blatant lies, then boy, you've been in for a treat. The nerve, and this is where I go to the AP. I was talking about the AP before. This all started first with the video that I told you about with Biden at D-Day. The man was facing the wrong direction. The veterans get up, salute the flag, and Joe Biden turns that way. The dignitaries, distinguished guests, all turn around and look with Biden away from the flag so he doesn't look like he's mentally retarded. Then days later, of course, we get this little shindig with the parachuters, and my buddy Dave gets a clip, puts it up, and it's very clear that Joe Biden is clueless and is wandering off away from the parachuters. The AP covers for the White House when they come out and they say this.
Several recent cheap fakes actually attack the president for thanking troops for thanking troops. That is what they're attacking the president for. Both in Normandy, this happened, and again in Italy. And I think that it tells you everything that we need to know about how desperate Republicans are here. Instead of talking about the president's performance in office, and what I mean by that is his legislative wins, what he's been able to do for the American people across the country, we're seeing these deep fakes, these manipulated videos. And it is, again, done in bad faith.
Legislative wins? Everything about the president's agenda is unpopular. I don't know what wins they think they got for the American people, but it's wins for them in the left-wing agenda, but it has not done anything to better the economy, advance people's personal financial situation, which is what we're going to get into a lot more in the next segment. And I just don't know how you separate that from Joe Biden's chances of winning the White House again. You don't win with a 33% approval rating, and you don't win with numbers like this in the economy. I mean, it's really that simple. That's why they needed to unleash a deadly path, or they needed a deadly pathogen to be unleashed on the greater public in order to go after Trump's Achilles heel, which they just, of course, coincidentally benefited from. All right. So I don't believe in coincidences in politics, as you all very well know. All right. But there is no legislative win here. The man isn't popular, and there's nothing that they said or did that is untrue. So while we get rid of, this woman is like one of the biggest doozies of press secretaries we've ever seen. This woman's like totally an idiot. Her intellect is lacking at best. I mean, that's the nicest thing I can say about her, let alone her character. All administrations lie to some degree. All administrations bend the truth, spin the facts, try to get in the spin zone, and weave this web that certainly traps the critics and benefits their boss. This is another level. I'm going to show you the video, the second video, because I already showed you the first one. And basically, the AP started attacking Dave over this, saying that this video is edited and is a deep fake, and that is simply not true. And then even people after that started to like shift the goalposts and say, well, it was cut. So Dave went back and he put the full clip up that we have, and I'm going to play that for you right now. And then we're going to play someone's reaction to this. I mean, someone I'm sure you guys love, you know him. I'm sure you love him. All right. But this is insane. This is now the biggest wire service. I think it's the oldest wire service in the country. Now just brazenly lying to the American public about what is and what is not real. A video that is or is not real. I mean, they just are taking the White House talking points and regurgitating them, knowing full well that they're lying. This is the Associated Press, folks. They know they're lying. This is an editorial decision. This was a decision made by an editor. Yes, run with it and help them. Like, I don't know how else that conversation could have went. So let's go ahead and play it. And then you make up your own mind, and not as if we don't have other videos, which I will play, but let's do this. Oh, all right. He's at the G meeting. All right. As just to give background here, this is what she was talking about, which, by the way, is another great tee up to the next segment. This global world leaders meeting to talk about the global economy is a hoot. What's he looking at? What's he looking at? And where was he going? What is he looking at? Here he goes. There he goes. Look at the people now. Look at her. She's concerned about him wandering. She's going to grab him by the arm, and she's going to walk him back, put him back where he's supposed to be, where he's supposed to be paying attention. I mean, let's go back. Give me a second. Give me a second. Let's do this again. Okay? This is, again, I know they're liars and they have a bias, but it's unfathomable to me that the Associated Press, not that nothing surprises me anymore, folks, but it's incredible that they think they could get away with lying about a lie, a deep fake, and as if like people are going to believe this. Don't they care at all about their credibility at all anymore? I mean, there are global events that people have to trust they're reporting on accurately, everything from foreign crisis events to the global economy. And this is what they're doing. Watch him. He doesn't know where he is. He didn't see this guy come from the sky, folks. Look at him. I don't know. I think he sees grandma or something. The welcoming committee is here. I don't know what the hell he's looking at. Oh my God. I mean, it's really not funny. It's not. It's, you know, the guy is totally lost in the sauce. I'm just playing it in its entirety. Okay, there you go. I'm playing it in the encounter in its entirety so you can see it in its entirety. No 15-second clips, which by the way, even media organizations then took and reran in order to say like somehow this was deceptively edited and then the part of it is a deep fake. I mean, some of the stuff we're hearing is just insane. That was the encounter. He clearly never saw the guy come from the sky. He clearly didn't know where he was supposed to be looking. The guy is over there dealing with his parachute. I mean, folks, he's standing in an open field. A guy just fell from the sky with a parachute on. It didn't draw his attention at all. And then he starts to wander off into the field. Like I'm saying, like he's seeing the welcoming committee come, which if you guys have ever studied near-death experiences, you know what I'm talking about. I don't know, he heard the voice of grandma or something. Come, Joe, time to come home. And he just started wandering off. I mean, this is nuts. And he, by the way, he was not the only one. Meaning the guy, the parachute dude. He wasn't the only one. Meanwhile, that doesn't stop CNN from bringing on our favorite former Republican lawmaker from Illinois, Adam Kinzinger. And here, let's roll this. Here's the Adam Kinzinger turned out to be a total and utter fraud. Everything about him was a fake. He rolled in, talk about a deep fake. Adam Kinzinger, as a man, is a deep fake. He rolled in on the Tea Party Express. I'm a super conservative guy, and we're gonna stop Obamacare, and we're gonna stop government spending, and blah 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 blah. Adam is getting chunky, Robert. I just saw that in the corner. He is getting, because this is what happens when you sell yourself to the Trump derangement media. You eat well. You eat well, Robert. You get taken care of. You can't win an election to save your life, but that doesn't matter because you'll leave Congress after being there. And I can't stand it when people do that. They leave Congress and then they're not accountable to voters. So they're saying they're leaving. They're not standing for re-election, but they're going to stay there. That's like the worst thing for self-governance ever. Is then they can do whatever their little hearts desire and have no fear of being held responsible by the voter. This is a man who shared a photograph of a Ukraine fighter pilot that was totally fake. He shared a story about a brave Ukraine fighter pilot that was totally fake. Not real. And yet he goes on CNN and he lectures us about deepfakes and dishonesty.
Look, his brain is broken. The difference is he does it more energetically. And, you know, and I think it's completely an unfair comparison, but right now, you know, Joe Biden looks a lot more low energy than Donald Trump, and that's Donald Trump's advantage. But these videos, I mean, they're blatant lies. And it used to be, Jim, back in the day.
That is a blatant lie. Because they, of course, are talking about the video we just showed you. There was nothing dishonest about it. That is what happened. And all I can say is, especially it's probably why the younger generation, Trump's doing so much better with them. They don't care what Adam Kinzinger tells Acosta on CNN, who, by the way, like I said, I mean, we have the footage to prove it, faked being assaulted and was going to run it on CNN. He faked being assaulted at a Trump rally in Tampa, Florida, which we then got him on tape talking with his camera people, the production crew, getting ready to fake the whole thing. If we didn't get it on tape, he would have went to CNN and did that. All right, let's finish running this because I want to get to the next segment. But I mean, we have got to point this out before we just can't let it go unanswered, is what I'm saying. All right. It's not in the best interest of the country to allow this to continue.
It would be kind of the dark corners of the internet that would put out these fake videos, and then responsible people like members of Congress and the Senate or the RNC would say, no, we're not going to do that. They're the ones pushing this now. This whole Joe Biden wandering at Normandy, all you had to do was pan out and see that he was talking. He's doing exactly what I would have done as a military guy, which is go over and talk to them and not the other state leaders. You know, him at the fundraiser, if you actually zoom in on his face, he's very mobile. He's motioning. He's smiling at people. He's not frozen. But we're going to see this for the next 5 months. So people just guard yourself when you see those videos. Wait to make a judgment until you see the full video in context.
The full context.
Okay, forget that full context. Okay, here's another video. Is this deceptively edited?
Homeland Security Secretary, I'm not sure you're going to do all the way. But all kidding aside, Secretary Moore.
I don't know what he said. Do you? I'm totally clueless as to what he was trying to even say. Steven, what a great comment. I saw that at the corner of my eye. What a great comment to bring up, talking about the petrodollar with, of course, the news today. And it's not really just today. I mean, they're over there doing this. It's important conversations that they're having. The financial order in the world is most certainly changing. And I thought a great person to bring on for this, which he's ready to roll, is Brian Bracken. He is from Freedom Gold, our sponsor, and he's a senior director over there. And we were having a conversation, and I was got to get this guy on to talk about this while we do, since we've been focusing so much on the economy. So let me bring him on now. And Brian, thanks, of course, for coming on and to Inside. First of all, welcome first time ever to Inside the Numbers, and I really appreciate you taking the time to come on.
Thank you, Rich. I really appreciate it. I mean, we have plenty to talk about. There is, just this segment that you were unbelievable. And Karine Jean-Pierre, I mean, when her mouth is moving, she's lying. It is amazing. So, yeah, I can't believe what's going on in the world. I can't believe that this guy's our president, quotes. And I think that what you brought up with the petrodollar is, I mean, this is something that everybody should look at. Every American should say, what is going on? We just had Saudi Arabia.
Yep. That's what I was going to ask you about. Roll with it.
Thank you. I'm excited about it because it's what's going on. And we all have to look at this and say, is this affecting me? Well, it is. And so what happened is the Saudi Arabia, they were dealing in the petrodollar. Petrodollar, the U.S. dollar, the reserve currency of the world. And now they had an 80-year stint of that. They are not renewing that lease on the petrodollar. This is a blow to the dollar. Yep. Is it going to end the dollar today? No. But it is the beginning. It is a nail in the coffin of the dollar. And they're coming out with something called Enbridge. They're going to deal with that with China. Enbridge is a digital currency. They are going digital. The dollars, paper dollars are doomed. So that digital currency is something, Enbridge, they're dealing with China, Taiwan, Thailand. It is something that is going to be traded for oil and circumventing the dollar. So this is, again, a nail in the coffin. We're in trouble. And this is something that why Freedom Gold is so adamant about educating. We're big on educating our clients, giving information, and we're a company that we're there with our fellow Americans. We all are conservatives. We all have that deep American value instilled in our hearts. And so we care about our fellow Americans. We want to help get protected. And we can talk about that. I know you have some things that we're going to go over. Housing crisis. There's a million subjects here that we can touch on that have to do with the American people and the economy, our debt. What is going on there?
That's where I wanted to go. Can I, if you don't mind, I just wanted to stop you there, because when we talk about the petrodollar, I mean, people really understand the importance, considering how big our debt is. I think we've gone past the point where we could, like once upon a time, even as far back, as recent as when Trump was first elected, we were still in a position, Brian, where we could grow our way and be smart, be fiscally smart, and it would take a long time, but we still were in a position where we could grow our way out of it as long as the private sector was growing faster than the public sector. Dan Mitchell, even though he's a Cato libertarian, a little bit out there for me when it comes to that stuff, he's right about the difference between debt and deficits. There was a time when we could have turn this thing around and been on like a glide path, and the petrodollar wasn't in jeopardy. And I think that, that when the debt is this big, I think people need to understand the only reason why our debt can be this big is because of the petrodollar. And if that is at risk, then maybe you can help explain that to people a little bit. If it's no longer the standard when it comes to global energy, then there's really no reason why some nations still need to tolerate or would even want to buy that kind of debt. So I'll shut up and let you take it, but I try to help people understand why the strength of the dollar is so important when you're looking at a debt as big as ours.
Well, I agree, and our debt is massive. It is a global scale. It is ridiculous, and it's going to affect everything. If we separate from the dollar, the control that the U.S. has on the world at large is because, in large part, the dollar and the strength of that dollar. Everybody leans to that dollar for security around the world. And so we see that departure from the dollar, which we're seeing in real time, that is going to have a trickle-down effect worldwide. We see what's going on with these failed policies that Biden has so horribly put into place. We have wars all over the place. We didn't have that with Trump. We have wars all over. We have instability. We have civil unrest. Everything is being just coming unfolded, and the fabric of our country is being unraveled systematically. And so what do we do? How do you protect yourself? What can the average person do to say, hey, this economy is a bubble, and which it is, and the stock market, it's a bubble.
That's where I was going to go next. I was going to ask you about the market, but go ahead.
Well, but it's all intertwined, and so I think that what we have to look at is the economy okay? And the answer is no to everybody. Are you better off? No. And do you feel secure? And so the answer is no. And I always go back to gold, because this is something that's so important. It's a store of wealth. It's a safe haven investment. It's something that will be there throughout time. And it's a hedge against what's going on. You have an insurance policy on your home. You have an insurance policy for a fire, for earthquakes, for whatever catastrophe might come your way. But we don't on our money oftentimes. So gold provides that. In this economy, it's an absolute must. You put every dime into gold? No. But you put an amount that is a security feature for your income, for your family. And, globally, we're in trouble. This market, we're hitting new highs all the time. Why?
That's what I wanted to. So let me just stop you there.
Yeah.
Because we're going to talk about, obviously, the impact the economy has on the election. And of course, the Biden campaign and the White House, which really are inseparable. Their answer is, but look at the market. Look at the market. Look at the market. And For people who are just looking at their 401k, they may be thinking that, that's going well. Of course, the average person doesn't have that much in their 401k. So, what Biden is talking about, the upside of it may not be as powerful as he thinks, but the downside could be catastrophic for them because, of course, if it is a bubble, which of course it is, then they could lose what they have put away in that 401k when things go awry. Which I was just reading at the Wall Street Journal. We were talking about the housing market crisis the other day. I mean, it's not crisis yet, but foreclosures are on the rise for people who haven't been watching. And while they're down 7% since the pandemic, that's a really distorted benchmark because of that brief period of time when commerce was shut, and it started a chain reaction of people maybe not being able to catch up on their bills. It stabilized for a bit, so it's a little bit confusing, just like wage data is distorted because of that still to this day. But like what would you tell people who say, well, my 401k is doing well? I mean, so why would why would I be concerned? It's like, I feel like Americans have a false sense of security with everything. And we see this with the lawfare. Every time we poll, we're in the field, we hear things, and normally it is a certain group of people, but we hear things like, well, that's not going to happen in the USA. This isn't going to, it's never going to cross that Rubicon. We're never going to get there. And it kind of stuns me, Brian, that people who live through the financial crisis, people who lived through the wars in Iraq, I mean, people who lived through even more, maybe there are people who remember the meltdown in the 80s, and they still think that they have this false, they could be wrapped in this blanket of false, security, and that they're not paying enough attention. And, what would you say to them?
Well, I say you're spot on. I mean, that false sense of security is through our media. It's just pounded into people's heads, and this is misinformation. It is propaganda. Let's just call it propaganda. Call it what it is. And so, your 401k, is it safe? It's only safe as long as the economy's piping along. As long as people are buying our debt. China buys our treasuries. Many countries around the world, Saudi Arabia buys our treasury. That's our debt. And if they stop doing that, what happens? It's a house of cards. And so is your 401k safe? No. Do we even know the real earnings? Do we even real jobless claims? Do we know? We don't know any of it.
Yeah.
So with this misinformation, what you do is you go, okay, well, do I have a protectorate? Do I have something to fall back on? Do I have a hedge? And again, gold and silver is what creates that. We're in a bubble. It is the market. What goes up must come down. That bubble, when it bursts, are you going to be ready for it? That's the key to this. Are you secure in knowing, oh yeah, I can weather any financial storm? Because there's a financial storm coming. Not my words. Jamie Dimon from he said it's not a financial storm, it's a financial hurricane. Where are you going to be when that hits? The guy left standing is the guy that's holding gold. And so I think you're spot on with everything that you say. That's why I love listening to your show, because you not only care about everybody, but you're putting the truth out there. You're putting the truth out that other people aren't saying, and we all have to take a hard look. Where am I? Where am I positioned in this economy? Can I weather the storm? Can I weather the financial storm that's coming? So if you ask yourself that, the answer probably is no. So
yeah, Jamie Dimon's comments were really, I mean, he's a calm and, whatever you want to think of Jamie Dimon, he's not someone who speaks hyperbolically. And he said, we desperately need new leadership. This is not going to end well if we don't. And had some interesting things to say about the Fed and their role. And I mean, of course, this is an election year, an election cycle. We're down in the last 5 months now. What do you think the Fed's going to do leading up to this election? How do you think they're going to react? That's so sad. You can't even have a central bank that's not politicized. I mean, of course, there's going to be some level of politics and everything here, but it's not just about monetary policy that is the right decision for the nation anymore. I mean, the politics have overwhelmed that. They've even overwhelmed, like you said, the propaganda. If I remember financial reporting being black and white, Brian. My days on the street, I remember financial reporting was black and white. You didn't mess with that stuff. It was kind of sacrosanct. You had to know without a bias, without a skew, what was the deal? What time was it? That's gone. I almost feel like the Fed is going to try to give Biden a lifeboat, which is what I think Jamie Dimon was trying to insinuate, which is not necessarily the right thing to do. But they're limited. They're like a one-trick pony. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, like you said, they're a one-trick pony. The banking system. Thomas Jefferson said something very, very interesting and poignant. He said, banking's more dangerous to our civil liberties than standing armies. Wow. What a thing to say.
Statement.
It's a powerful statement.
Especially
but
considering
it's true.
When you know how much they feared standing armies. I mean, the Quartering Act was it for many of them who wanted to remain loyal to Britain. Once the Quartering Act would put so many of them over the top. When you read those pamphlets, they were terrified of that. So for Jefferson himself to make a remark like that, it's truly profound. But go ahead, I'll throw the floor back.
It is. It's profound. It should be a T-shirt. So when we look at these policies, we look at what's going on in the world. We look at just the world in itself. Is it a better place? Is it safe? These policies are just, they're ridiculous. First of all, they don't make sense. I can't imagine. I look at polls and I think, is there 33% of the people in this country actually think he's doing a good job?
Yeah.
Am I taking crazy pills here? It doesn't make sense. And so we really have to look at the system, and is the system going to benefit us? Is the system, Social Security, how long is it going to be there? Look at the debt. Look at what's going on with the dollar. Look at what's going on with trade. Look at Biden wandering around fields. This is not the way it should be going. And so, I always bring it back to gold and silver, especially in retirement accounts. If you have an IRA, a lot of people don't know you can transfer an IRA free. It doesn't even create a taxable event. You can transfer an IRA into a self-directed IRA with physical gold in it, physical silver in it. And, for your clients, or your listeners rather, we have a special we're going to do. And if
I didn't tell them yet. You can go ahead.
It's new. I haven't even, we haven't talked about it, but we're going to be able to, if you wanted to start with $500, you can start investing in gold and silver. And it's a start, and it'll start you in the right direction. And we'll do free insurance and shipping on those orders as well. We send that directly to your home. From our doorstep to yours, you'll be able to track it, and you're not responsible for it until you sign for it. No risk. It's just a great way to go. So that's just for your listeners. And we have an 800 number, 888-279-3592. That's a direct to us. When you call Freedom Gold USA, you get one of us. You can call me personally. And just call in, ask for Brian. I'll be happy to speak with you, answer any questions. This isn't a sign you up moment. This is educating. This is us sending out information. It's free information. We have a gold guide that we'll send you that has just a wealth of information, and it'll show you how easy, how simple, and how cost effective it is to go into gold. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, gold's so expensive. It's a protectorate, and we can make it cost effective.
But a lot of the other ones are, and that's why we shifted gears, and then from another one a while ago and went to Freedom Gold. Like, this is a show with, I think a lot of people watch it because there's a voice that's heard on this show that other people they don't represent. And there's most certainly affluent people, but then there's even for me, for instance, I'm from a working class background. So I understand you can't just pop into something like that. And by the way, I'm going to do that after the show. Immediately after the show, I'm going to take advantage of that offer myself to put my money where my mouth is. But, there's these people that run these things, Brian, and it's not everyone has 50 grand, 100 grand to go throw in growing some bars, but by the way, are not always insured. So that's a really generous offer. And I'll throw the number up on the screen when we're done here and make sure people know where to go. And the number, by the way, is in the description of the video. Just don't forget to tell them you came from me, so you can get it.
And I want to add something too, Rich. What we're going to do for your listeners, we're going to have whoever calls in and gets information for a gold guide. We're going to put you in a raffle, and two times in the month, we're going to raffle $250 worth of silver. So
whoa,
two of your, and we're going to send that directly to the client or to your listeners rather. I've got client on the brain because of what I do, but your listeners.
Yeah, I know. I remember those days. I do.
Right? They'll be able to take advantage of that. We'll do 2 raffles of $250 in a month, and we'll send that directly to them, shipping and insurance, of course, included. So just for your show and your listeners.
That's very much appreciated, folks. Don't worry, I will stay out of the raffle myself. It's tempting, but I will stay. I'll make sure Laura and I aren't. But that's incredible, Brian. It really is, and I really appreciate you doing that for people who are listening. And that's really generous. Really generous.
We're working class guys too. We started this company. We have 20 years of experience in this field, in gold and selling gold. And we don't have high price spokespeople like all these other firms. We thought, why are they charging so much? Well, when you have these big time celebrities endorsing, the cost has to go somewhere. You got to pass that off to somebody. And so it goes to the client, unfortunately. We don't have that. We are a national firm with a boutique feeling. When you call, you get a live person. You get a guy like me or me personally. You can call and say, hey, I want to speak to Brian, and you'll get us. And that's a big difference. It's a big departure from these high costs. We are superior priced, superior products. We have our inventory, and we are lightning fast on shipping. These companies will take 12 to 16 weeks. I'm not kidding. I don't know what the reason is, but 12 to 16 weeks to deliver. We don't play that game.
At the end of the year last year, I want to say, because you're always looking at your finances at the end of the year and you're thinking, what can I do better here before we close out this quarter? Is there something else we could do better to put away? I want to say it took 8 weeks for the last company, which I don't have to say on air. People know, they've been watching the show. Right. I want to say it took almost 8 weeks. It was a while. And, that was supposed to be because of the weekend. Because of the holiday, but you never,
we're
honestly never know, right? When I talk to you guys, you know what I liked? And I'm glad you came on so you could put a face. Like when I'm over here doing these reads during the show, it's so great that you were so knowledgeable when you and I were just shooting it on the economy, and people can put a face to the company, right? I just thought that was so important. And some people know this, especially if they've been watching me a while. Years ago, I used to love the financial when working in the financial world long before I got into politics and polling, because math is math, statistics, and it was a very different world. We did IPOs, and then eventually I said I really just want to take my book and go somewhere with like a boutique feel. And you guys kind of reminded me of that. And I did. And went to, I went to Edward Jones when it's kind of cooling out, but the financial crisis was a real big eye opener. And you'll find this funny story. Eventually everyone's stuck with these Lehman bonds, as it's coming. And everyone's like trying to unload these Lehman bonds, which I really just could not do, Brian. I just could not do it. And of course, Field Supervision, who's in charge of, supposedly regulating the staff, it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're young. This is my job over here to make sure this is a sound investment. So it didn't work well and didn't part on good terms. But I remember telling Laura, this is a bubble. This is a bubble. It's going to burst. And when it does, these people are going to be hurt. So I said, I think we need to buy some gold. Right. So I did a trade years ago on an IPO, which she did not like because it was like a lot in one trade. Now we made out, but she was pushing me like, you did that, such a risky investment and you won't buy more gold.
And I said, well, I don't know how big the bubble's going to be yet. And anyway, gold back then was obviously a lot less than before the crisis. And she beats me up over it to this day, because I mean, per troy ounce, I don't even remember. I don't want to remember, but I missed, right? And I should have known, because I believed that I was right about the bubble so much. I don't know why I didn't, trust myself enough, so I did. But first of all, too, though, this is from what you do: diversification. So like, as that guy, you're telling your clients that every day. You don't want to do that with your own portfolio. I took one risk one time with that IPO and lucked out, and I remember telling myself it was a one-time thing. I should have at least been a little bit more aggressive when it came to the gold, because then I would have made out even better, a lot better than I did. I mean, basically, I had my percentages. This is for this is for that, and nothing really went outside of that when it came to the portfolio, right? So diversification was so big to me. Yeah, and she beats me up to it to this day. And anytime we do a gold trade, or anytime we go to purchase gold, I hear this story again. She's never going to let me live it down. I was 25 years old. I don't even know. More. It had to be. I was younger than that. I had to be younger than that. I mean, I was a young guy, So, but to this day, she beats me up over it. It was good times. But it was a lesson in life about how everyone back then felt so secure in what they were doing, and they thought those subprimes were protected. They thought those, people should go and watch The Big Short on Netflix, because I know we're coming up on the hour, and I wanted to ask you this question because I think it's a really important question. I once had somebody tell me, don't assume the people who are in charge, and this was before, by the way, that don't assume the people who are in charge know what they're doing. Like, so everyone gets this impression like they must be the smartest people in the room because they deal with these things. And in my experience, that was not the case. So everyone was part ignorant, I think, and then just part clowns. And they ran this thing into the ground. It was like, I don't know if everyone's ever read the book Demons of Our Own Design by Richard Bookstaber. He said, we do these things all the time, these bubbles all the time. And, we're just like kind of almost destined to repeat them. So you should behave accordingly, which would be, by the way, to protect yourself with other means like currency. I wonder what you think about that. Do you think, because you were talking about how bad these policies are, do you think they know that the stock market's overinflated? Do you think they know how negatively these policies impact the economy? Do you think they know that, or is it some mixture?
Unfortunately, I think they are very aware of it. This is by design. You can't ruin an economy, United States economy, unless you try to do it. They are, they're borrowing money. I mean, we're sending money to foreign countries. We have a lot of problems here. The border. I mean, I could go on for hours, as we both could. But what you said was interesting. You said, fear of going into something, like you did that IPO. Wow, yeah. That's great that it worked out. But when you look at people now with the economy and what's going on, you think, is this going to bubble out? What is going on with this economy? Do we get protected, and how? And fear of the unknown is a real fear. That's here. We take your hand. We walk you all the way through the process. It
was unknown to me. It was.
And that's why you didn't go deeper. And that's, we look at that, and that's why we're here to just answer questions. Educating people is so important. It'll give you the tools to make an informed decision, the right decision for you and your family, and to get protected. If you look at the last crash, 08, 09, 10, you look at that and you look at what people lost. People lost their shirts, and it took all this time to make it back up. And now we're at that another bubble. Well, it happens every time. As soon as you're all invested,
it's a bubble. It bursts again. Yeah,
it's a bubble, and then they steal the wealth of that segment of Americans. Now, the people that listened and said, all right, you know what? I'm going to go into gold. They had that hedge. So as the stocks burst, the gold went skyrocketing. They evened out. It's a hedge. It's an insurance policy. It's something every family has to have it. It is true wealth. It's in your hand. It's when have you had your actual wealth in your hands? When is that? Never. So this gives you the first ability to have that in your hand, and dealing with your wealth, your family's wealth in your hand, tangible assets. So to answer your question, we're in bubbles. We need to get protected. It's a sad state of affairs. It's not going to get better. And look what they're doing to keep Trump out. I mean, it's crazy. We need to protect
this system, to protect and preserve this system.
What a great thing to say. It's exactly right.
It's really unbelievable, as if it's so valuable. And this is what really I think about this quite a bit. It's valuable to them, but is it like? And I know they think that, but is it really? How much thought do they give to their own families and the future of their own families? I look at currencies very much like I look at real estate. Like, God's not making any more of them. And it is what it is, and that is real wealth. Currency is real wealth that they just cannot take from you unless they come and physically take it from you. That's totally different than the paper wealth that you see. And I wish we had more time. I would have gone into the Senator Warren's wealth tax, which is just insane in and of itself. But how intangible some of that stuff is that she is counting as wealth. And I actually don't think I've ever seen anybody go that far in all the proposed wealth taxes we've heard from leftists over the years. I don't think I've ever heard somebody go that far like Elizabeth Warren has. And by the way, I look at currencies as another way to protect myself from people like that. So, but yeah, I know it's 1 o'clock. I'll let you run, but I'm so glad you came on to put a face to the company. I think it's important that you did it. I really do, because there's one thing telling people about what a great company you are, and they really can call and ask questions, and they're not going to push you the way other companies do. Yeah. And it's a great way, great way for them to meet you and get to know you. But yeah, let me put it up on the screen. But again, tell people, give them the address. I give it to them every day. It's probably best coming from you.
freedomgoldUSA.com/rich, and call 888-279-3592. We're here to help. We're here to send some free information to you, answer your questions. Again, not a sign you up moment. This is just information. Find out what the possibilities are, if it's right for you. And we're here to help, and we're here to support Rich and his great efforts. What a great, just a great thing to have us on. And we really appreciate it. We really appreciate your show and what you're doing for everybody.
And the link's in the description. The number is down below. I'll give it to them again a little bit later. But, hopefully there's not one. But, and next time there's a big event, we had bank failures last year. We'd love to be able to, pick your brain about them in the future. If you're willing to come on, Brian, we'd really be appreciated.
I would absolutely love it. Great seeing you. Great speaking to you. And you have a great day. God bless. And we'll talk to you soon.
All the best, Brian. Take care.
You too. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, everybody.
That's Brian from Freedom Gold USA, folks. I'm glad he came on to put a face to the name. Him and I were talking the other day and just shooting it about how the show is getting more about economics and because of the impact on elections. And I told him, why don't you come on and talk to people about who you are? It's so much better than who you guys are and what you do. It's so much better than just me reading from a script every day, which now you have a face to put to that script. All right. So the economy, he said, is not getting any better, and that's where I want to go with this. So what do the Biden campaign and the economy have in common? They both have these challenges that I just don't see how they're going to change them around. And I'm not trying to be a Johnny Debbie Downer, Johnny Raincloud, whatever the expression is. I just don't see a path forward without radical change at this point that is going to, change things in the God forbid, short term, God forbid, but certainly the mid and long term. Once upon a time,
again, after Trump won in 16, I kind of saw a way. I didn't see, I mean, even the Congressional Budget Office saw a way where you could grow yourself out of this thing without an austerity, like a painful austerity, like they called it in Europe. And we kind of blew it. And not only blew it, but then added more. And the worst thing I think Donald Trump did was the CARES Act. And I can understand the pressure that he was under, but it was a historic bill of epic proportions that added more to the debt in one chunk than anything, until of course Biden came in office and then basically double dipped and gave his contributors, the people who supported him for president, a kickback. And so here we are. And I think that together with this feeling of, I don't want to use the word dread, but this feeling that things just can't get better in the short term, coupled with what we've been talking about, the memory loss. Why don't we need to come up with a term for this? Because there isn't a really good term for it. But, like Black voters after the passage of the Civil Rights Act were a younger generation. They were not the prior generations who voted for Republicans and remembered the era of Reconstruction, for instance, right? Over time, that memory fades. But I don't think you could get there. I don't think you can get where Trump is today without the economy being where it is. Because there are two things that we hear when we speak to non-whites who are voting now for Donald Trump, who admit, flatly admit that they voted for Biden, or they would have voted for Biden had they voted, right? Maybe they're a new voter. That is one, immigration. They absolutely cannot stand illegal immigration. And two, it's the economy. I had more money when Trump was president. And things are not the normal ammunition that Democrats are using, to get through that. And it even worked when he was president. He did a little bit better with non-whites, but he did not reach the levels he's at today, even though, Black unemployment hit historic lows. Not non-white period, but Asian unemployment rates and participation rates are always better or more positive than other non-white groups. But Hispanics, same thing. New startups, the amount of new startups that we saw from, Black Americans and Hispanic Americans, all new records, and none of that cracked, the dam the way it looks like that dam could possibly be cracking right now. But if you ask Jim Clyburn, none of this is real. And he's got his own data. I'm just going to play this, but it's worth noting because, again, I've relayed this before. Wayne, man, my brother from another mother, but he's not wrong. And it's kind of a joke in the polling industry. We're always like, very different how Black voters poll versus how they vote, right? So that's why even when it looks like Republicans may get 12%, maybe they get 9%, right? If it looks like they're going to get 15%, maybe they get 12%, right? Or 10%. It's very different. And it's a tough thing for pollsters to grapple with because Democrats have a machine in Black communities. And I think Wayne's right. I don't think he's right. He's right. And he would know better than any of us, even me as a pollster. It's not that Black voters ever were monolithic. It's that those who voted were more monolithic. And Republicans had no way to reach out to these people. And I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to read an article because I kind of hinted at what Trump has been doing. I think here and there, I've thrown a couple of things that I knew about over the last 2 weeks. And then boom, this article appears in the New York Post, which has at least some of it. And I'm going to fill in some gaps. But let's first tee it up with James Clyburn, who is responsible for Joe Biden being president. That is not an understatement. No nominee, even Bill Clinton was the comeback kid. He got third place in New Hampshire. And then he rolled back as they made a turn to the South. Of course, he was a governor from Arkansas. But even Bill Clinton did not get killed in the early states like Joe Biden got killed in the early states. Iowa, New Hampshire, then into Nevada, which was not a white-only contest like Iowa and like New Hampshire tend to be far more white. Even Bernie Sanders, by the way, brought in those satellite caucus sites in Iowa in 2020, and they were the most non-white, the youngest, and he won them. In the Nevada caucuses, he was only 8 points behind Biden with Black voters. Biden was being rejected everywhere. No nominee of a major party in modern history has lost as many early states as Joe Biden. What happened? Barack Obama and James Clyburn happened. It had 2 weeks in between the last contest in South Carolina to basically, and Barack Obama was a huge help with this, picking up the phone and calling everyone in media to get them to do what he wants, because of course they fawn all over him and they do whatever he says. And then of course the phone calls to Amy Klobuchar, the phone calls to Elizabeth Warren, the phone calls to every Pete Buttigieg. Don't worry, Pete. I will make sure you get a job in the administration. You know you're not going to win anyway. So what do you want, Pete? Let's negotiate. And he got transportation secretary. All right. That part you got to lay at the feet of Barack Obama. They had 2 weeks to convince Democratic voters through Democratic media, which is the media, that Bernie Sanders cannot win. You may prefer Bernie. And they did everywhere except for Florida. That is one state where Bernie was just like outwardly rejected by the Democratic electorate, because even they, it's getting less and less every year, but even they still had some pro-Cuban immigrant constituencies at the very least, not super happy with Castro, right? And Bernie stuck his foot in his mouth when it came to that issue, really hurt him bad. So he didn't even find friends among, the most blue South Florida Democratic leaders and activists in those communities. So he killed himself, shot himself in the foot with those groups immediately. But outside of that, from New Mexico to Colorado, Super Tuesday states like Minnesota and Maine, they told the exit pollsters that actually their first choice, they preferred Bernie Sanders. But I'm going to vote for Barack Obama. I'm going to vote for Joe Biden because Bernie Sanders can't win. Every exit pollster asked that question because they knew that was the case. They knew that was true. And then the second part of it was mobilizing black voters so that not only mobilizing them for Biden so that he could have such a resounding victory in South Carolina, it would send a signal the rest of the primary is going to go really bad for Bernie Sanders. And we don't call him Bend Over Bernie for no reason. He, of course, did what Bernie Sanders always does. I'll take another house in Aspen. I'll take another car over here. I'll take another this. I'll take another that. And sure, I'll bend over. And my loyal followers, by the way, get screwed. That's why most of Bernie's original coalition from 2016 are actually Trumpers now. Those are Trump voters now. They're gone. His coalition in 2020 was not the suburban, rural, working class kind of labor coalition. They went to Trump. They're gone. They're not even Democratic voters anymore. Bernie Sanders, his coalition was rich white liberals in urban areas. It's the only one who remained loyal and voted for him. Everybody else listened to MSNBC. Everybody else listened to CNN. Everybody else listened to James Clyburn. Bernie can't win. Trump will kill him. A socialist cannot be elected president. Yeah, I mean, this is a bunch of socialists saying this. Is a brilliant move. I got to give it to them. It's a brilliant move. It's a brilliant power play. And it is not understating at all Jim Clyburn's role if you give him the role of the person who is responsible for Joe Biden being president, because he never would have won South Carolina by the margin he had. He may not even have won it. Tom Steyer may have bought his way through that if these guys didn't get involved. All right. So let's play it. And then I'm going to read an article.
For weeks, even months now, to my friends, that Joe Biden has a quiet constituency that nobody is looking at, nobody is listening to, but it's showing up in these polls. So I don't know what the people are saying to the pollsters, but I know what they say to me when I walk through airports. I just came in
Hey, walk through airports. Silly pollsters. He walked through an airport. Tell me, what airport was that? Where in the country have you been to talk to people? Because of course, he is still going to be in among the most liberal. I wouldn't even call them liberal because many of them are moderate to conservative. But he is the most Democratic loyal areas for black voters. That's where Jim Clyburn's going to go. Did he step off the plane in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where the New York Times poll just found Donald Trump has almost about 20% support among black voters? Did he step off the plane in Toledo, Ohio? Did he step off? Was he at the airport in Charlotte, North Carolina? No. What about Detroit, Michigan? Because there was just a huge conference there, and there was a ton of anecdotes and a ton of interactions from black voters that people clipped through on Twitter. I mean, all data is anecdotal, and all anecdotes are data. So it's a kind of a misnomer how we use that word. But to pretend like a year worth of polling, all of us finding this consensus, which is historic, unheard of, to pretend as if a year, folks, more on top of what was already a trend. We got to update that graph, by the way, with the latest. The graph where we track non-white vote share for Donald Trump over the years and reported vote share. How much did he actually get? How much did the polling say he was going to get? The very same polls that found single-digit support for Donald Trump among black voters in 2020, even less, by the way, among when he was going against Hillary Clinton. Some of them were legitimately zero. I kid you not. The Quinnipiac poll and the Monmouth poll had zero support for Donald Trump among black voters at the end of that cycle. He wound up doing all right. I mean, it wasn't a Mitt Romney or a John McCain level kind of margin for Hillary Clinton. She did well. She just didn't do as well. And Trump peeled off a few points. Then in 2020, he peeled off a few more. So it's not just the polling. It's the polling on top of what you could absolutely say is the evidence supports is a trend. And that's how these trends work. You see little chips, little chips, little chips until the dam just breaks. But don't pay attention to any of that. James Clyburn got off the plane, and at the airport, the few people who came up to him told him they're voting for Biden.
From San Diego. And I spent a lot of time in the Charlotte.
I forgot he actually said where he went. Case closed. Case closed.
Airport, the Charlotte airport, in the last several days. And people are coming up to me very quietly saying, keep doing what you're doing. Things are going to be fine come November.
Let me ask you a question, because I am personally questioning whether or not he's making this up. When have you ever heard of liberals being silent? I'm actually going to stop and look at answers in the chat here. Think about this for a second. When was the last time you have ever heard a story where people said that Democrats, Democratic voters, activists were quiet? Oh my God. I mean, absolutely he's gaslighting here. 100%. Liberals aren't quiet. I bet he doesn't believe what he's saying. I bet he doesn't. The shy liberal vote. Right. We now have a shy liberal vote, like we had the shy Trump vote. Is there any reason in the country today? Is there any reason for any liberal or any Democratic voter of any color, creed, sexual persuasion, orientation? Is there any reason whatsoever for them to be shy or have been impacted by some social bias? Just last week, I was talking about how Republicans are missing out on an enormous opportunity to shame people who vote for Joe Biden. somebody who is clearly mentally retarded at this point in his life. That's not a dig. It's not an insult. It's an observation. They have the opportunity to write back, shame them. How could you be such an ideological freak that you would vote for somebody who craps his pants and can't even speak a sentence to be the most powerful man in the world and to be in charge of policy that affects hundreds of millions, if not billions of people on a daily basis? Are you stupid? Are you just as stupid as mentally retarded Joe Biden? But they're not doing that. They're not. Are they shaming Joe Biden for being, on the cognitive decline is not even an accurate way to characterize it. The man is done. Most families looking at somebody like that in that mental state would look to putting him in a facility where he can get professional care every day. Not vote for president, vote them in for president. I mean, it's crazy. The whole damn thing is asinine. All right, let's get back to it.
I tell you, there's a quiet constituency that Joe Biden has, and it will show up big time.
Okay. I actually think that the shy constituency Joe Biden may have isn't black at all. Nope. They're older and whiter. If you missed the interview I did with Charlie Kirk yesterday, we discussed this yesterday. There is very clearly a trend with seniors. Now, it's debatable whether or not Biden will actually win them, as the polls suggest. He's ahead with some of these voters. I'm not there yet. And I'll tell you why I'm not. I'm not there yet because we saw this in 2020. And in fact, I can show you right now exactly what I'm talking about. We were not as bullish on Biden when it came to his, his senior vote share. We weren't as bullish on him when it came to that as others, but we certainly did see that there was slippage for Trump among those who are 65 plus. If you looked at his senior vote from 2016. All right. And here's the New York Times poll, a gold standard, an A-rated poll, right? A-rated. Okay. Trump v. Biden, Trump v. Biden. Did I pass it? I always pass it. Yeah, I did. This is the whole ballot. So it's here. Second to third row. I know it's difficult to see. Let me see if I can. There we go. As you can see here, by the way, Joe Biden, 90, Trump 4. Donald Trump did more than twice that number with black voters in 2020. So they already understated that. And then you here have the 65 plus, and you can clearly see the New York Times had Joe Biden leading Donald Trump with voters 65 and above by 10 points. Did that happen? No, it did not. So I guess there's an interesting thought experiment here. Well, Rich, if the polls overstate Biden's support with older voters, what is the likelihood that they're overstating Trump's support with young voters? And I would say that absolutely both of those things are possible. However, I don't think that, how could I put this? I think Trump's gains with younger voters are bigger on net than whatever Biden has gained with senior votes, because we can't conclude that that is even real. I mean, the New York Times poll is about the same margin. I'm talking about the recent one. It's about the same margin with senior voters. It's possible that they not. It is totally possible. You have to acknowledge that. But is it likely? And is it at least fair to be skeptical, because they've done this in the past and we've seen this in the past? Even I am seeing Joe Biden's alleged strength with seniors. I'm seeing it. All right. So I know I'm way over and I got to take a break here. Man, that stinks. I am way over. I got to take a break. When we come back, we will go over this article because there are some good things, or I would say good. What does that mean, right? I think it's worth saying there are some things that the Trump campaign is doing that I would deem effective, or could be, at least, could be effective. All right, to reach out to non-white voters in a way that we just have not seen Republicans do. All right, I know my voice is giving out. I don't know what happened yesterday. This is the way it's been going lately. Oh, don't forget, after I do have to go a little bit early. Got to get ready for human events with Jack Posobiec. All right, I promised Jack that we would make up a day that we didn't. Neither one of us were able to do, and I will do that today for my boy Jack. So, Cliff, I want to get to that. Let me just put this out there in case Cliff's comment, because we're going to get more comments. It's going to push comments up. Before I take a break, I want to read this comment because I was going to bring this up, and I think you're making a valid point here. And this is why Trump needs to do what he's doing, and even so more. More, Cliff. It's not enough, in my opinion. It's not yet enough, but he's on the right track. All right. So what about the danger that urban Democratic machines will produce mail ballots of black voters for them? I would argue, Cliff, this isn't a danger. This is a certainty. Democrats cheat. If you don't believe that, you either fell up the turnip truck yesterday or you're just stupid. I don't know what to say. I mean, naive, I guess, maybe, but that's falling off the truck. They cheat. They will fill in black votes. They have exploited the black community like this for years. There's no doubt they will do it again. Now, their downside is that only some of Trump's increased support among black voters is coming from urban areas. All right. But you can counter that, as we've talked about before. And when we come back from the break, we'll talk about what he's doing and then what I think he needs to do even a little bit further. Okay. But great comment. And thank you for that, Cliff, because that's where I was going. That's where I was going. Nothing is ever certain except for, well, Democrats doing everything they can to cheat through a vote is absolutely certain. They've been doing it for years. All right, let's take a real quick break, talk about our friends at the Wellness Company. Speaking of which, Dr. Drew Pinsky's coming on to say hello as well. I'm going to talk about how serious this alleged avian flu thing could be and why they think. I mean, look, you never want to feel too safe. Of course, they're nuts out there, and God knows what these governments are playing with, which I want to ask him about, in fact. But it hasn't happened and materialized yet, has it? Right. That being said, over at the Wellness Company, they're doing God's work, in my opinion. There are two things that we tell you about all the time. Of course, the emergency contagion kit is one of them. It's right there on the screen. You can see it in the bottom. Look, it's peace of mind by getting one of those kits with life-saving drugs in it. But actually, today is not the day we're going to talk about that, although the link is in the description, and you are certainly welcome and should go get that. Laura and I have 2 for the household because we, of course, have 3 kids and 2 adults, and 2 is peace of mind. All right. Some of those drugs, because of the stigma through COVID, they won't even prescribe anymore. So getting that emergency kit is a great way, is a great resource. But over and over and over, we get asked, or we'll hear people talk about, I did what I was told to do. I believe them. I got the jab. Now I don't feel like myself. What the hell am I supposed to do about it? All right. And all I will say at that point is I have heard very good things from people, you out there, who have purchased the Wellness Company's. Basically, it's a solution for this. It's a groundbreaking discovery led to the formation of the Wellness Company's Spike Support Formula, which contains nattokinesia, which Dr. McCullough has published, base spike detox protocol, and you guys can go and check that out and read that if you'd like. But the role nattokinesia has on this is the key here. Bromelain, curcumin, it comes with incredible results in patient population. And to date, tens of thousands of people have followed his protocol and have taken the base spike trio. The comments on the website speak for themselves. I could go on and talk to you about it, but that really is the truth. The results have been nothing short of miraculous. Somebody just called me and told me about his wife again the other day. which he had said, you know what? She's like head over heels over this thing. Purchasing each ingredient. It's like, I got the shot. What do I do now? I don't feel like myself. And the root cause of that is that spike. So if you wanted to put together the formula yourself, it would be very pricey. And so the wellness company put together this unique formulation that would save you about 35% if you tried to do what's out there now to, I don't want to say reverse, but to kind of like counter. It's a detox. It's a detox appropriate word, I think. Right. So in Dr. McCullough's own words, isn't it interesting? Natural substances to combat this man-made disaster. That's the answer. Right? Isn't interesting the word, or is it ironic? That may be the better word, honestly, Doc. And it is interesting that a man-made virus and a man-made vaccine, both wreaking havoc on an unassuming population, is really happening. But again, there is hope with this formula. So the base spike detox trio is the gold standard for combating the spike protein. It's a daily regimen to help get you back to feeling the way you did before you took the jab. Reclaim your health by going to twc.health/TPP. Use that code TPP to get yourself 10% off and free shipping. All right. twc.health/TPP. You'll know you're in the right place when you see that website right there. By the way, I will recap what Brian said when he was on before with Freedom Gold. And let me just say it. I didn't want to do it and put him on the spot because he's a modest guy. Some of the other companies out there, including other companies that I have purchased from, it's kind of like asking you, even if you had that amount for an initial commitment, which most people don't, even if you did, you don't know who the hell these people are. Sure, let me get out the checkbook. I got that extra 50K sitting in a CD. Let me turn that into currency just because you said so. No. So what he is doing is just absolutely incredible. A $500 minimum? That's incredible. I'm going to do it myself. I kid you not. And a raffle? You better tell me who wins that raffle. I'll stay out of the raffle, I promise. But I want to know who wins that raffle. Yeah, that'd be really cool. Getting free silver for winning the raffle? So I don't think anybody's ever done anything like that before. And I didn't know about that raffle. That's secondary. But I did know they were going to offer you that. And you can call and you can get Brian himself. Totally different experience. All right. Let's grab the New York Post thing. Never hear the end of it from Laura. Still. Why didn't you buy? You put all that money in the taser. It did split 3 times. Put all that money in a taser. It was risky. You should have bought more gold like I told you. It's true. Taser went up. Taser split 3 times. That was the IPO, by the way. But Taser went down. And Taser is now where Taser belongs. Gold has not. And just keeps going up. All right, let's put this on the screen. You can't see it, can you? I thought you did until I looked at the monitor. All right. How T. Trump is bravely, in quotes, going where Republicans have never gone before, into the black community with swing state cigar nights. This is from A.G. Gankarski over at New York Post. Let me get a sip of water before I read this. God. I don't know if it's allergies or probably. Still taking I'm still eating my spinach, taking my vitamins. I don't think I'm getting sick. 2 prominent Donald Trump supporters in Congress are going to, quote, bravely go where no conservative and a Republican has gone in the last 30 years. The black community. As new polls show the former president tripling his support among African American voters. I don't have to run it again. You heard Harry Enten having a heart attack on CNN. Oh my God. Look at that. I never thought in my lifetime. I mean, how many of you did? Be real. Be honest. A sportscaster turned political commentator will join the pair next week. The Post can exclusively reveal for a swing state event that black congressmen hope will galvanize support for Trump against the Democratic incumbent they characterize as old, racist, and uniquely unsuited to the presidency. Let's start with old. True. Let's skip over racist and let's deal with uniquely unsuited for the presidency. Prior generations of Americans not once but twice deemed Joe Biden unfit for office. And he was forced to leave, suspend his bid, his dream to be president because they deemed his character unworthy. A lot of things Americans can look the other way with. But he lied about who he is. He lied about what he is. He didn't go to that school. He didn't score that high. He didn't come up with this phrase. He wasn't the first person. I mean, give me a break. The real Joe Biden opposed busing. Yep. That's true. The real Joe Biden opposed busing for black students. Many people back then believed that was a roundabout way to preserve segregation in a post-civil rights world. Like, you're not outwardly saying black kids are not allowed at this school, but if you can't get them to the school, then it's essentially not segregation, now is it? I mean, right. It's not your fault that they can't get to the school. That's something that Kamala Harris had a huge opportunity to whack him with. The way she delivered it was pathetic. That kid, because she lied. That kid was me. No, Kamala, the math doesn't add up. All right, so get out the vote events take many forms, but the alliteratively titled Cigars, Cognac, and Congress to be held in the Atlanta market on the eve of Trump and President Biden's first debate, which, by the way, is coming up next week, is intended to spotlight differences between the former and current presidents and ultimately motivate black voters in swing states that have been a GOP challenge in recent cycles. I'm honored to be joining two men who prioritize having open, genuine conversations during the tumultuous times, during this tumultuous time in our country. Congressman Wesley Hunt and Congressman Byron Donalds said Sage Steele, a former ESPN SportsCenter anchor who left her role so she could express herself politically. I don't know if you guys remember that story. Kind of went over it, but it was what it is. Quote, this is Steele. With the 2024 election right around the corner, the three of us are coming together to discuss issues important to all Americans, especially those in a black community. I can't wait to hear everyone's ideas and welcome all opinions on June 26th. Studio Cigar Lounge will host the Shindig, the second in a series, at 6 p.m. in Fairburn, a suburb of Atlanta. Let me just throw out some questions here that I would immediately be asking right now if I was you. Okay, that sounds great. Who else are going to be at these meetings? Other than the president being the draw, where is the personal relationship or the personal connection to these communities to bring these folks out for more than just curiosity? Because they know in their heart of hearts, they maybe don't vote, that if they did, probably would not vote for Joe Biden. Those are the people, overall, those are the questions we should be asking. I will point out again, Barack Obama in 2012, Mitt Romney in his stupid conference calls with his dumb strategist. We're making this app with Microsoft and it goes hand in hand with Project Orca. They got killed by what I'm talking about right now. They were all over when it came to they were all over it when it came to personal relationships. They didn't really get invited to a house party. They got invited to a barbecue. This is a cool idea. Don't get me wrong. And when Posobiec and I were talking about stuff like this is a great idea. Great alternative. But where is I guess what I'm saying is, where is the liaison of trust here? You're going to be bringing in some of these new people. Maybe some of them don't even come. Maybe some do come, but it's really just out of curiosity. Where's the liaison to make sure that that is right? Somebody gets bored and wants to leave, before they hear Donald Trump. A stranger saying, no, 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 wait, just another 45 minutes. Going to do jack. It's going to do anything. All right. So, I mean, I wonder, who else is involved here? Who's going to be at the location? Celebrity can only get you so far. And that, I think, is the tack that they're trying to take right there. Not to mention, Byron Donalds, great guy. How many black voters know who Byron Donalds is? Let's get real. Because he's black, they're supposed to know him? I don't think that's the right way to look at this. I think that's the way Democrats look at black voters. And they're fortunate enough, or they're lucky enough, that many black voters haven't put it together yet. So they get away with it. But Republicans cannot get away with that. All right. Donalds was rumored to be on Trump's short list for a running mate. He was at one point. Explains further, just being able to have these meetings to hear directly from black Americans is really important. You get a window into what's happening in their world, in their lives. And I think President Trump wants to have that ability and to hear from them, and then just share his thoughts and why his policies can really help achieve the next level of success. And it continues here. We're going to be talking with a lot of black men, but that doesn't mean to be exclusive of black men. That's just the nature of the event. I wonder if that would have been the case. Oh, well, in any event, we'll just wait. Well, because I don't subscribe to that anymore. Young black men, younger black men, working class black men, working age prime working age black men, Hispanics, same thing. We saw this during the recall and everything else. It's more than that now. Women are coming over, and it's more than that. You can even see it. But the more educated they are, that's kind of tricky, because there's like a fine line. It's like, no, I don't want to dive into that. That's going to make me want to break out a crosstab. So let's just keep going. All right. So while black men are the primary demographic target for the cigar night, Hunt believes women are movable voters too, though to a lesser extent. And that is true. That is true. Men are certainly more persuadable in the black community than women are. That is true. However, I think we might be surprised with how many either straight. Yeah, I don't. We'll wait. We're going to get some more black women, he declared. I talked to some black women in Philly, and I was actually elated when I was told, Wesley, I see that you're focusing a lot on black men, and I understand why, because you could do the math, but don't forget about us too. But if we get them as well, it is incremental numbers. Let me show you. Well, I don't have to show you. Part of it is because Trump did so poor with black women in 2016. That kind of exacerbates the gain. But in truth, Trump gained more with black women from 16 to 20 than he did among black men. I know. Peeling off black voters from the Democrats is a recurrent Republican challenge, but it's one Hunt believes is doable given recent trends. It's a math conversation, Hunt explained. We've been looking at polling and trends for the past 2 years. President Trump in 2020 got 18.7% of the black male vote. If we get that number to 25 to 30%, then mathematically Democrats can't win. And I do think that's easy. At this point, 18, 20, even a 25, I think that's he already did 19. That's if you believe the Edisons. If you believe, actually, no, I think it's possible that most of it came from men in the voter validated as well. So it's very close. but I think that it is very doable to get it into that mid-20s to upper 30s range, mid-20s, high 20s, low 30s among men. I think that is actually more than doable. It is. It's where black women go. But here's the kicker. Again, black women jumped more than double in support for Trump from 16 to 20. Black men went up less by percentage, though they still remained a larger share of Trump's voting bloc within the black community. So I know it's a little bit confusing, but let me say it like this. If Trump went from 10 to 15% of the black vote among men, he went from 6 to 16% among women. So, yeah, I mean, that's a bad example, but you know where I'm going with this. The Texas congressman read jibes with the optimism of the Trump press shop, which notes even CNN reports based on an analysis of polls. The former president is at 21% with black voters, while Biden is down 9 points with black voters over 50 and down 43 points with those under 50 from this point in 2020. Again, I really can't stress enough, and it really is about the age. The age relationship is so strong, and we have to come up with a word for this. Memory, something memory. I'm thinking, why is it stronger with younger people? They don't remember the Civil Rights Act or the Civil Rights Movement. They don't remember that era. All right. These are horrible numbers for Democrats, the worst since Republicans embraced the Southern strategy in 1968, driving a political repolarization that's on the wane based on this data. Hum believes Biden's history and record of being racist, evidenced by the 94 crime bill and Helpcraft, and his eulogy for West Virginia Senator Robert Byrd. Oh my God, I forgot that. A former senator from West Virginia, Robert KKK Byrd. That's what we used to call him. My God. But anyway, he notes Biden's 2020 assertion that, quote, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black, offers insight into the singularly flawed president. Quote, this is a guy that has a history of being a racist. His own vice president, Kamala Harris, called him a racist on a debate stage and then turned around and accepted the vice presidency, Hunt said, before noting that age and mental state concerns are real. That is true. But when I say age, I mean the age of the voter. How much more likely someone is to have jumped ship from Biden if they are younger than if they are a certain age and above. They're still the most loyal. Older black voters are still the most loyal Democratic constituency, period. All right. Man, could you imagine? They're going to I just want to say this because I know I'm running out of time. This is why this debate is such a mistake. Trump goes to bring up stuff like that. Bro, you delivered the eulogy for Robert KKK Byrd, the Grand Cyclops who received an award for the most recruits in like the 20th century for the KKK. You're going to talk to me about racism? Once they do that, once he does that, they're going to cut his mic. Biden, who believes that it's very unlikely Biden will be replaced as the nominee despite documented infamities, also argues the president's record should be a deal breaker for black voters, saying the contrast between the 45th and 46th presidents is instructive. Quote, in this election, you're making a decision between two men, two presidents, and they both have records. And I think that's going to be important for black people to be able to look at objectively and weigh those decisions and whose policies have actually been better for us. I mean, we've kind of heard that before, right? All right. So I'm just saying there are other things that I'm like, I see that I would add in addition, but certainly a good first step. How could it be already? I'm not, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraphs and a closing. Well, they'll have to wait. That's too early. Donald thinks the administration's worst policies have been its, quote, massive overspending, massive illegal immigration that has overwhelmed cities, and special interest driven politicization of federal agencies, including the Department of Justice, that has been weaponized against the former president. Look, I actually think I should have added that to the list. I think politicization of the system is a major problem for black voters. And I think, again, despite the stupid little pieces by Mediaite, it makes him relatable. Joe Biden's not relatable to them. He's just a rich, old white guy who's privileged. Sad, sad man. Lost his 3 sons. Probably wished he had a lot more time back with them. The conversation turned to cognac and cigars, and the congressmen have classic taste in both. Really? I didn't know that. Hunt rates Hennessy and Remy Martin over other offerings. And in terms of smoke, he favors Diploma cigars, Cuban style, fashioned in the Dominican Republic. That's a good smoke, bro. Donald's is also a Hennessy man with an special enthusiasm for white Hennessy, a limited quantity product known for its floral bouquet that he describes as a beautiful, beautiful thing. Wow. We could get down, Byron. I had no idea, bro. I had no idea. But I'd rather have a Gurkha or an Opus X. I'll give it a shot. Diploma's a good smoke. It is a good smoke. Depends. I'm picky. I think I'm even picky with Monte Cristos. I like the number 2, but I love so many different things, he says, but 2 particularly stand out. I love the Rocky Patel White Label series, another good smoke, an amazing cigar. And then I have the Drew Estate Laga Privada number 9, also an amazing cigar. So I do wonder if I think this is a great start. Let me just put it this way, guys. I think this is a great, great start. I do wonder by the ending there, can you tell? Is this one a little bit too exclusive? Is this one a little bit too niche? Or listen, have the younger guys come out and introduce them to that stuff. They'll basically offer it to them, whether they're a connoisseur or not. And they're not going to be many of them. You could still show them a good time on your dime. Get to know them. It's a good start. I just feel like it's a little bit too, I said inclusive, I meant exclusive. You know what I mean? I think it's a little bit too much like that compared to Barack Obama, who did the burgers and hot dogs thing. All right. With certain stuff. But it is a great shot. Why? Maybe it is a little bit smart to go here first because these people are going to vote. They're going to vote. If you invited a bunch of low prop voters, they're going to be smoking down your Hoyas and drinking up your finest and then just disappear and not give you the real number so they can call and make sure that you handed in your ballot at the end of the day. I don't know. I just feel like, all right, fine, start here, but open it up to bigger and better things. All right. All right. Ingrained loyalty for seniors who are supporting Biden. That is a good term. It's a good term. Interesting. Have to check it out. All right. But it is 151. I'm getting that cue. All right. Don't forget, if you like the videos, don't forget to like them. Share them far and wide. If you're on Rumble, mosey on over to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, mosey on over to Rumble and share the videos there. Subscribe, give it a like. It's enormously helpful. It takes less than a minute of your time. The best place to follow us, of course, is right down there. peoplespundit.locals.com. peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, we did have a little bit of a fart off with the public polling project, but I think I think we're going to be able to get in the field. I kind of want to, regardless. That wouldn't take too long, but you want to help out with that, you can. That's great. But I would actually rather you give Brian over at Freedom Cold a call if you got a couple extra bucks. You're looking for something to do with it, because you're not going to get something like that for a long time. So nice of him to come by. And I will just give you guys that information real quick, but it is in the description of the videos as well. The last of it. Don't forget, if you do call the number 888-279-3592, 888-279-3592. I keep forgetting that some people only hear audio. If you do call that number, or if you go to freedomgoldusa.com/rich, you have to tell them the People's Pundit sent you in order to get that. They're going to funnel you to their normal products. All right. This is an offer just for viewers and listeners of the show. So make sure that they know that. Don't miss out on anything. And then get back to me, because, of course, we want to hear about that. Want to hear about that experience. Tell us whether you signed up for the raffle. I want to know who wins the raffle. All right. All right. After I'm done with Jack and conference call meeting real quick, I'm doing it myself. I just can't I'll stay out of the raffle because that's just stupid and unfair. That's for you guys. But I am going to start up over there. All right. 153 already. I got to go because of the testing. Tune in to Human Events. You can tune into Human Events. You can tune in right now and check out Jack's show while you wait for me to come on if you have the time. And if not, I will see you on Friday. And get your questions ready, because, of course, Friday is what? Freewheeling Friday. God, don't forget to do your due diligence and watch out for deep fakes. I hear there are bad deep fakes abiding out there. Okay, be careful. We wouldn't want you to end up, a Trump supporter or anything. All right, nothing but love for you guys, and we'll see you on Friday. People's Pundit out.